Hey there, Internet. Welcome to the Hard On Gear channel, where I discuss and review my used and abused knives and gear. Knife of the Week, episode number 16. Going to talk about a few of the tools and knives I used on my last little camping excursion last week. That video will be coming out tomorrow if you're watching this video when it comes out on Sunday, April the 2nd, because we're now a new month. Despite the fact that it was the end of March, it was minus freaking 25 that night that I was out there. So things didn't go exactly as planned or expected. I planned on being out there for a few nights longer. It's been 4 or 5 nights since I came out of there. My neck is still a little bit jacked up from the way I slept. And that'll be the full deal start to finish, the expectations I had when I went in, followed by the process of the shelter build and the firecraft and all that stuff, and then me freezing my butt off, which you're going to do in minus 25 more than likely. Plan is to go back in there this coming week and get another night in there with improved shelter and see the difference in those different techniques and modifications that one can make to stay a little bit more warm throughout those nights. These things that I have on the table here, just to go over really quickly, the Fiskers X7 Hatchet, which I used for a little bit and decided to put down because I haven't used a traditional hatchet like this in a long time. As far as cutting performance goes, I kind of like the way the Hogue performed the previous week. Now, this is still a good tool and all that. It's just the way this hits and the way it glanced a couple times. I need to take a file to this and really work that edge down and get it the way I want it. I had a couple of weird glances. Now, I've been using tools and stuff like this pretty good, and I have pretty good body positioning and all that, so I wasn't that close to hitting my leg. But a couple of times I hit a knot or a branch funny, and I just didn't like the way this thing glanced and the weight of it and everything. Super well balanced towards the head for like maximum impact when you're going to split wood, but yeah, I ended up doing a lot more work with the Chanceinhell Bolo as far as a lot of the limb clearing and even some of the firewood processing towards the end. And when it came to smaller, like alders or the some of the thicker limbs of branches to use those as like kindling wood and such, I was just hacking through them with the Chanceinhell. So it got to a point after a few hours where I didn't even haul this thing out anymore. Oh, and hey there, viewers of the Hog channel. If you wouldn't mind, if you're enjoying this content, go ahead and click the like button, as it helps the channel out and gets this video out to more knife enthusiasts. The Pocket Boy Silky saw did all kinds of wonderful work once again, as you might imagine. Yeah, still plenty of residual fibers from those trees and the firewood that I processed with this bad boy. Super, super awesome weight, size, ratio to capability in this tool. I held the signal out just to try the saw once or twice in comparison to the Silky Pocket Boy, and of course, like you'd imagine, just the shorter saw and just less aggressive teeth. It just doesn't quite measure up, but I just wanted to see because it'd been a while since I used it. Now, I don't think I hauled the Izula out once this trip. It just remained in that same position on my offhand side, right hand, handle down, super available, but unnoticeable, and yeah, big fan of that position and carry for that knife. I had the Kansbol in the Garberg sheath, and very happy with that, actually. This is going to be a weird but probably common combination you'll see me carry now. It sits in the sheath better than the Garberg does in its own sheath, and the thinner blade, man, this thing's slicey as old heck. Great for cordage and all that. Great for doing any kind of like notching or I didn't end up doing feather sticking because I didn't really feel I needed to. That being said, if you watch the Firecraft, it's just me being lazy, and if I had a couple of good feather sticks there on top of my birch kind of nest that I made, probably would have had a lot less issue. So feather sticking will be something I put a little more effort into next time. It's just straight up, guys, it was one of those things where I'm seeing what I can get away with not doing just for the sake of time and efficiency, and through suffering I'm learning that there are some things that are worth putting time and effort into, and firewood prep, including feather sticking, will be something I'm a little bit more adamant about doing on my next excursions. Yeah, so that stayed in here. Didn't use that ferro rod. Ended up using the pocket one that I had that came with this little pocket bellows, which I have out here to reiterate how essential this thing was when it came to, especially when I was asleep at night, or well, trying to sleep, and I wanted to lean over and put a little bit of heat, rather a little bit of oxygen into the fire and get things cooking again. And yeah, what a game changer this thing is for a beginner firecraft guy like myself, who maybe needs the actual artificial assistance when it comes to the early stages of getting a good flame in really like cold weather or humid temperatures or conditions. I'm going to be picking up several of these and stashing them all around my bag, and I put this out on the table because I'm going to be keeping one of these, I think, in my pocket, in my little coin pocket next to Sharpie and the Space Pen. I know the difference now of what it's like to have one of these and not have one of these. Now, I'm sure you can make one out of a piece of reed or some tubing. You can find something to make something like this, but what, 16 inches maybe this thing extends to? Again, being able to lean over and not have to put my face or beard near the fire or smoke. Oh, I didn't eat nearly as much smoke this time, so big fan of the pocket bellows. The Anaconda, like the Izula too, just stayed on my person in the place that it typically does, left-hand side, 9 o'clock position, handle up, reverse grip. Maybe this is ridiculous to have these extra knives here, but these are just two that I feel so comfortable having on me all the time now. I don't even notice them. And like most things, if you get used to doing something for a few weeks or months or years, you kind of don't even notice when you got 3 fixed blades on you. So these ones, yeah, they're just kind of staying in those permanent positions now. And I don't know if they'll rotate much in the near future. We'll see though. The Manix 2 was the folder that I had in my pocket. It got a little bit of use cutting some cordage and all that sort of things. This thing tends to stay razor sharp, so I have that option if I want to do something a little more delicate and slicey. And it got a little bit, but nothing too serious. Mostly knife work was done with the Kansbol, and firework as well, as this thing's got some nice grooves and scratches from a little bit of probably more than necessary fire striking. Nonetheless, done the job. Learned a lot, once again, about doing firecraft in inclement conditions. Very essential pieces of kit that I carry on my person now most of the time, just because I'm learning more and more how essential fire is to keeping yourself alive and just sane when it comes to any kind of like terrible survival conditions. The other knife that I have on the table right now is the Paramilitary 2, because as Budget Guy for Knife and Tools pointed out in that video a few weeks back when I'd asked, I think it was one of the Knife of the Weeks, what was different about this knife, it had the pivot screw back. Believe it or not, I found this thing when I was moving from the military base into my new digs here on the Wildfire base. Just happened to find that screw, and it looked like the screw that I was looking for. So put some blue Loctite in this time, got the tension set where I want it, feeling pretty good about it. And I don't know like if you typically have to do blue Loctite on both sides of a pivot like this, because I know you do want to adjust it sometimes. But yeah, never had any issues with this thing firing without the pivot. With only the one pivot rather, and still seem to fire pretty damn good. Worst case, if I do want to adjust it, it's blue Loctite, put a little bit of heat up by the screws just to get it loosened up, and then make my adjustments as needed. What I shouldn't be doing is losing those pivot screws, and I should go and blue Loctite all these screws, but if I start doing that with this one, I'll start doing it to all my knives, and that's just a commitment I'm not ready to make right now. But this is going to get some more pocket time again. This certainly won't handle the amount of abuse that the Manix 2 lightweight or any other thicker blade stock, kind of thicker behind the edge knife would. But so long as I've got some of these thicker fixed blades around to do some of that tougher stuff, I'm feeling pretty confident about throwing this thing back in the mix again. But knife of the week this week is once again not a knife, because last week the Pocket Boy really ended up coming in clutch for the firewood collection. Still did. Wouldn't have been able to collect as much firewood as I needed without it. But I probably could have got by and at least survived the night if this was the only tool on my person. And I, from this last trip, am really thinking a machete will now be, or a large knife like my K-Bar large heavy Bowie anyways, it will be a staple of my kit when I'm going in the woods doing this stuff. If it has to fill the role of a knife, it can, although of course we know I'm not going to have that issue. It definitely fills the role of the axe, and worse come to worse, it can baton firewood as well, which I learned, although it did take a bit of a beating, and it may be a little worse for wear because of that. It's not a full tang knife, it's a little drilled out, and I do believe it's quite capable and quite sturdy, but it's not made to baton. It's not super thick. And it certainly didn't glide through the wood as well as when I was batoning with the Kansbol. But again, knife of the week this week is going to be the CRKT Chanceinhell Machete. I'll give this thing a nice sharpen and put some more Tough Glide on it. The Tough Glide did seem to do some good for it. It's just I had this stuff sitting in sheaths that had snow melted in it. Just not good maintenance practices on my part. So I'll get this thing shined up, looking a little bit better, and ready to go back into the woods, because I think we're going to have a lot of fun together. Like the video if you haven't already, and definitely check out tomorrow's video if you are at all into bushcraft or watching people suffer and do stupid things and learn from them. So see you there. See you on next Knife of the Week, or feel free to go back and check out the Knife of the Weeks from the previous weeks if you would like to see the evolution of how my EDC changes. Because eventually, as I've been talking about with some people and in comments and stuff, I'm seeing you guys mention it too, the excessive amount of knives and all this stuff for experimentation at some point will get narrowed down. And there will be a time when Knife of the Week might just consist of like 2 or 3 knives on the table. As of this point in time, I'm still playing around with all kinds of random stuff and carrying 3-4 different knives on me. It's just about having those options and being able to test out the Izula versus the Anaconda versus the Manix 2 in different situations. I just feel like it's a missed opportunity if I'm getting a chance to do some certain knife task, and doing these Knife of the Week videos, especially now, having the opportunity to test different knives out in different EDC situations makes me feel like I'm giving you a little bit more of an honest and detailed account of my usage, and not just putting these Knife of the Week videos out just for the sake of putting them out. So yeah, catch you later on one of those next videos. Hard on Gear channel, signing off.